Hey guys, welcome back on the new lecture about the Nakhmanson Gambit. It's a crazy, new, absolutely popular, and I have to say, an extremely interesting and efficient line in faster time controls. I'm not sure if you could use this variation for tournament games. You probably could do it in one game, because right after that your opponent will prepare everything with an engine. But with all due respect to other streamers and YouTubers who like to play this opening mainly against weaker guys, I try to use this opening in a couple of games and to see how does it work against FMs, IMs, and believe it or not, even 2600 GMs. The answer is shocking. I won 5 games out of 6 and made 1 draw. The only draw that I made was yesterday on chess.com against young FIDE master from Germany who knew the line from the beginning till the end, although I have to say something and I'll let you know that I kept as reserve, and actually I have something up my pocket for the next game against this guy, and we'll see how is he going to trade that line next time when I played. Apart from that, I played against 4 IMs and beat him up very easily, once in 14 moves, 16 moves, 24 moves, and 1 game in 27 moves. When you count all these things, for example, if you play the boring Karakan, you're probably going to win 1 game with an amount of moves in like 4 games that I played in the Nakhmanson Gambit. I just want to tell you one more thing. So it's perfectly suitable for bullet and blitz games. And just like I said, you can use that in tournament chess on lower levels. On higher levels, you can probably use it once, and right after that, please stop and look for something else. Actually, look on the channel and find another line. So how does it appear? After e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6. Somebody would say, should we play like this? No, because if you play e4, e5, knight f3, they can play Philidor, they can play Latvian Gambit, Elephant Gambit, they can even play, after bishop c4, Italian Giuco Piano, Hungarian line, so do not play it like this. So how should you go into the Nakhmanson Gambit? If you watched the last video about the Urusov Gambit, you probably know that, and remember that I told you that the bishop's opening, second move, bishop c4, got a pretty big popularity on this channel. And I have a great news for you. I'm in the process of making a new Chessable book on the bishop's opening, Nakhmanson Gambit, and Urusov Gambit for white. So how does it appear? After bishop c4, if they go with knight f6, which is called Berlin defense against the bishop's opening, you should be going with d4. And when you play d4, e takes d4, last time we did like Urusov Gambit accepted. And what happens when they capture by knight? If you want to find what to do against this move, go on this channel and find Urusov Gambit accepted video. It's, I believe, 2 videos before this one. If, on the other hand, they play knight c6, you're going to see what should happen if knight c6. After they go with the knight c6, you just go with castles and knight to e4. Here we go into the Nakhmanson Gambit, crazy line where you sack the knight. Thank you all for your requests for asking to do this line. I would also like to thank to one guy who was the first one to come up with it. His name is Jonathan Schrantz. He really did like an extensive analysis, and I really have to say that I like his analysis very much. On the other hand, I just have to tell you that this is the last video in my playlist on the Italian opening, and basically right after this video you're going to have absolutely complete opening repertoire with a white pieces when you play the Italian Gambit with white. So you're gonna be able to find everything there. After knight c3, it's a shocking a move. You just secure a piece out of nowhere. And when I showed this line to a couple of good friends of mine, one guy is an IM, another guy is an IM, his girlfriend is woman FM. They were like, "What the hell? What the real point of knight c3 could be?" Well, before we go into the main line that goes with d takes c3, and of course that they should capture this engine, even shows that white should be lost after knight c3, let's just take a look what happens when they try to play a Nakhmanson Gambit rejected. For example, knight f6, or Nakhmanson Gambit declined. You play knight g5. I immediately have to say that the sixth move, knight f6, probably loses the game for black. You play knight g5 and threaten an f7. They can't take on c3. Obviously, they're just going to lose, like bishop f7, rook e1, knight e4, and queen f3 is checkmate. A nice and a very picturesque way of meeting your opponent in 10 moves. So they can play d takes c3, and after knight g5, they have to go with d5. But those who play knight e5, like they threaten bishop, knight, and defend on f7, you just go rook e1. They can't play d takes c3. It leads to completely lost position. One guy played in a blitz game queen e7, knight b5, threatened on c7, and after this f4, he even turned out losing a piece and losing the game. If bishop e7, you just take on e5, castles, you play knight to d5, and when they play knight to d5, bishop d5, they can't stop queen h5, which leads to almost completely winning position. So after d6, you go queen h5, threatening mate, bishop g5, and rook to e7, and they can't stop both. Mate on f7, a very nice mating that happens after this. You just give check, queen f7, and rook e8 with a famous mating net with the bishop and the rook. So they can play like this. After knight e5, rook e1, they can also try d5, rook e5, you take on d5, take on e6, play bishop d5, and you're not only up a piece, but they also are going to be under the mating attack. So they can't play knight to e5. Apart from this, I just have to tell you one more thing there. The whole thing and the whole approach about this line with knight g5 and the whole problem could be after d5, because d5 looks like it threatens both of these pieces, bishop and the knight, and looks like we cannot defend them at the same time. No, you second d5, which reminds me of some Butcher the Sicilian course ideas. When you play this knight takes d5 followed by rook e1, that's exactly what happens here. Interesting enough, I found like a couple of games with bishop e7 where you play knight f7 and they can't stop queen h5 or queen f3 afterwards, which reminds me very much on the FIDE lever attack that is part of the playlist and in the Italian opening of this channel. If they go with bishop e6, I can give you like a couple of seconds to find this one. It's a very nice tactics. It goes with rook e6, not knight e6, because once you capture by knight and they go queen d7, they can't touch this bishop when you take the knight, because simply you're going to do the fork knight c7. So if they go with this, you're just going to win it like this. And after bishop d5, of course that you should be almost completely winning, because they can't make castle, neither on queen nor on the king side. Knight on e6 is placed like in the bone of their throat. They can't touch this bishop because of knight c7, and practically we just have to play some bishop, queen h5, bishop g5, rook e1, and the mate is gonna come. All things considered, knight f6 doesn't seem to be working against the Nakhmanson. So they can't avoid this gambit. pretending like nothing's happening and just bringing the knight back to f6. We made them. In case they go with knight d6, I read somewhere that somebody said that this is the refutation of the gambit. I cannot call it in a classic sense of that word, refutation. We can say that it gives black fairly good chances afterwards, but I'm going to give you two approaches: queen check and rook check. In case of queen check, bishop e7, knight d5, when they take queen c4 and knight d4, I don't think you're lost here. Yes, they're up opponent. They do have a better position, so this could be called like a pretty normal game for both sides, where black probably, thanks to at the moment bishop here and pawn up, can have a little bit more, but we do have certain amount of compensation for the open e and d files. In case you want to go with rook e1, knight d5, when they take the piece, knight d7, queen takes d4, they cannot pretend like let's try to keep the piece at all costs with a knight d6, because you take here and play bishop h6 and they can't save this rook on f8. That's why they have to play castles and queen c4. This is what they claim to be a good position for black and kind of refutation of this opening. I can't say that. Certainly black should have better chances because they're up a pawn. But on the other hand, we have the queen in the middle of the board, rook on the open file, knight develop. They have a pretty passive knight they have to do something with. We're going to be playing bishop g5, queen h4 if needed. We have some pressure. We can place our rooks along the e file, or we can put another rook from a1 to d1. All things considered, your position, as far as I'm concerned, looks fine. Then apart from that, they can go with d5. d5 is an interesting attempt. I would call it like Nakhmanson counter gambit, where you definitely have to take by bishop. There are like certain possibilities as well, but when you take by bishop, you take on e4 and you go into this boring type of middle game. I'm saying boring type of middle game because whether they take on b2 and help us developing or completing development of our minor pieces, or if they allow us to take on c3, in both of these cases, position is fairly unclear with mutual chances, but you always have to keep in mind, yes, you do have a tiny better development, but they have like a way better and healthier pawn structure. And finally, we're just reaching knight c3, and what happens when they play two most common moves. Just like I said, I'm not saying, and I'm not here, and I'm not coming up and bringing up with some empty stories. I use it like 6 times, 5 wins, and 1 draw. Win against GM, 4 wins against an IM, and draw against an FM. So, but to be honest, FM had the easiest time. He knew the line. I immediately recognized that during the game because he was just blitzing it out, and he really knew what was he doing. On the other hand, a GM and German IM and another guy from Russia IM, they absolutely had no idea what was happening on the board when I played knight c3. Let me just show you what happened in those games. After knight c3, that happened in a big amount of my games so far. And I just have to tell you that I found quite an interesting plan. Engine says black is much better. But first of all, consider one human fact when you play your games. You do not face engines when you play chess, and they cannot play an ideal openings. Now, the haters and those smart guys will say, yeah, but they will learn all those variations. Well, first of all, they have to know them. They need to learn those analyses. They need to remember this stuff. They need to know how to treat those positions afterwards. And there is a very tiny difference between like playing on the verge of loss all the time and playing like a normal position after knight c3. That's why I believe that most of the correct guys will take by knight on c3 and try to play a normal game, more or less. Those who take by pawn on c3, yes, they can follow the engine analysis, but they risk a lot. And in a human game, under psychological pressure, time scramble, and all kinds of things, you can just forget the analysis, make some, like change of the order of moves, and lose your game in a very easy style. That's why I'm telling you that after knight c3 and with this Nakhmanson Gambit, you can really hope for the best, judging by my own experience. And after knight c3, lots of guys went with knight c3. I believe it's a practical human attempt. Fun fact was that Magnus Carlsen used this in one of his faster time controlled games, and he lost against this gambit. He played d5, and after d5, his opponent went with the bishop b5. But before I go with those positions and how actually Carlsen got crushed with this opening, I just want to tell you one thing. If they play bishop e7, you can take on d4, and in that case, you just decide not to play any longer in a gambit fashion, or you can play in my own way, because I didn't have any experience with this opening, and I just decided to develop my own system. And look how it worked. I played against that German John Doe don't know his name. He's just having title beside his name. So after like bishop d3, I brought my bishop back there because I want to have like both of my bishops to attack. He took on c3, who wouldn't? He's now 2 pawns up. And now I played h4. I find it very interesting, and it looks funny to me. I'm familiar with these kinds of things from some pen of attack Caracan type of positions. Anyways, I played h4. The guy played h6 instantly because h4 gives me an idea of knight g5. If any of you guys wonder, what if bishop h4? I was hoping to sack 3 pawns and to include my rook, 2 bishops, and afterwards queen into the attack here, hoping for the best. I would be very happy to play this game. It requires like a good tactical skills and abilities, and you can just hope for the best here. My opponent went with h6, which I believe that most of your guys will do. And now I'm just afraid that if he plays d6 and bishop g4, I can pack my stuff and go home. So I said, okay, time to play rook to b1. And in a way to pin this light square bishop for the pawn on b7, pawn on c3 is going to die anyway soon, but they will still be up a pawn. The guy played d5. In my opinion, a little bit maybe better could be d6 with the idea of bishop g4, but I'm not too afraid of this anyways, because I have some other ideas up my sleeve. On the other hand, I still believe that the knight g5 could work here and be interesting because they can't capture. You go with the queen h5. They do not have f5 because you have this bishop c4 with mate. Or you can just hope with some mating ideas in those positions. They have some d5, but I'm just saying you just have to be creative in this position and to come up with some interesting stuff. Certainly d6 was better by him. He played d5 and I played knight to e5. An idea of knight e5, I'm not supposed to swap off pieces when I'm down material, but I'm actually trying to open up my most valuable piece in its queen. I need it for the attack. After knight e5, rook e5, now I'm threatening rook takes d5 followed by bishop h7. Famous discovered attack. c6, I brought my queen to h5. And my opponent, without any hesitation, engine says play queen d6, and black is better. I agree that black is better if engine defends himself, but if humans have to defend after rook to e3 followed by rook to g3 with the queen having these 2 crazy bishops, maybe even afterwards considering rook b4 because they can't take because of queen h6, I believe that the one who's leading the initiative and the attack here is definitely white. So after queen h5, my opponent went with the bishop d6, and guys, if you want to be like a big Maya, let's see how would you play here. I instantly did it because I was familiar with the tactics that came up in the game. So pause the video and try to find it by yourself. I sacrificed on h6. After he played bishop e5, I played bishop h7. His only hope and chance in this game was to accept this sacrifice because I already sacrificed a pretty big amount of material. He didn't do that. He played king h8, hoping for the best, and after bishop g5, he just resigned the game. So quite an easy game, 17 moves. This was like 3-minute game against an IM. It happened like 2 days ago on Elite Chess. Hope you enjoyed it. This is what happens if they don't play d5. If they play d5, you can go with my approach. So go with bishop d3. And when they play like bishop g4, you already have like a great compensation thanks to open file, thanks to weak b7. They can play b6 because of bishop b5, and you have a fairly good counter chances. When they take on c3, you give check. And this is the line that I really like and enjoy to play. I play knight to g5. Reminds me on some Urusov Gambit variations that you can also find on this channel. And after knight g5, I found out that lots of guys, of course, they can't make castle because h7 is hanging, followed by queen h5. Of course, that they can't play h6, but I found one blitz game played entitled Tuesday, knight f7, queen f3, bishop g6 threatening mate. He cannot play queen f8 because of queen d5, it's mate. So they gotta go with rook h7, which is the only move, and you play this nice deflection. You just want to penetrate onto the back rank with a rook e8. White looks like so much better. So after knight g5, they go with the king f8. You play queen h5, bishop g5, queen d6, rook a b1, b6, and queen f3. For example, a typical engine type of assessment. Engine says, because he evaluates and assesses material all the time, that they're like absolutely better in this position. Why? Because they're up 3 pawns. It's easier said than done. On the other hand, they're up 3 pawns, but they have weak king, c3 pawn is about to fall. We got a bishop here. We definitely have an open files, open rooks, and a very, very good attacking chances in this game. That's why I believe we should evaluate this position as position with a huge amount of compensation for white. In case of queen d6, you just go queen f3, threatening here. Once again, they can't go with short castle. h7 is hanging, so they cannot play like this because of bishop h7. They gotta go with queen f6. You take on d5. They go with this, and once again, engine says they're better. But after I play queen h5, I'm going to threaten so many things. I just need to move my bishop somewhere, and I'll be threatening some bishop f4, knight g5, and some other ideas there. All things considered, after knight g5, g6 turns out to be the only move. You play queen f3, threatening mate in a couple of moves. They go f5, you play bishop a3, and when they play like this, you got to understand that these positions you play in a typical Nakhmanson spirit. So rook takes e7. Play rook to e1 with the bishop pair, great control of the squares, knight being around the king. They have lots of practical problems to complete their development. I insist very much on the assessment of position that almost disappeared from the latest books, articles, and the analysis. No one anymore says, and white seems to have a compensation, because engines either say it's winning or better for white, or it's worse or lost for white. So we can't say that. Here we just have to pretty much rely on a psychological effect during the game, and to understand that white has relatively good attacking prospects, and whoever likes to come up with the tactics He's certainly going to enjoy playing with white, while your opponent playing black has to, he's going to definitely going to sweat a lot here. And let me just show you that game of Magnus Carlsen, who played d5. You can play bishop d3 like I showed you if you like to play my way, but you can also play bishop e5. They all like to complete development with bishop e7, in which case you should go bishop c6, knight e5, c takes, and rook e1. You have ideas a4, bishop a3. You have ideas to put a rook on open b file. You have bishop f4 with some discovered attacks. You threaten knight e6 at the moment. Queen f3, you definitely have compensation. Although Carlsen captured on c3, rook to e1, and after bishop e7, knight e5, bishop d7, forgot about something. He forgot about that after knight e7, queen d7, bishop c6, b takes c6, bishop a3 just loses the piece on e7. I even have a better news. You don't even have to give up this bishop. You can just go with the bishop a3, which is an improvement, and e7 bishop is about to die. Very nice tactical trick, very nice to blunder, forget about, and this is how it works in practice. So guys, time finally for the main line, finally for the line that probably presents the critical continuation here by black. So they just go with d takes c3. That's the very first question of all these title guys who you show this gambit at first glance. Wait a sec, what's the point of this knight c3, d takes c3? The point is bishop f7. You sack another piece in order to force this king to start going in a big walk. So after king f7, queen d5, I don't want to waste time, for example, on moves like king g6. It's winning. You play queen e4 and afterwards just have fun at home finding the winning lines. Engines strictly say that black should be going with the king f6. Of all the guys who I faced here, I haven't faced too many guys, but within like 6 days, I faced like 6 title players, and none of them except actually one guy went for king f6. He knew what was he doing. That's a young FM from Germany. We played that game yesterday on chess.com and we drew the game. The game was with mutual chances, but I'm gonna show what happened. After king f6, rook to e1, I played. So we're down 2 pieces, and you don't care. You don't want to get a piece back immediately. You just go with the rook e1. But let me just show you that you can even play queen e4 and hope for the best in this line. What interesting fact is that you threaten bishop g5 to win on the spot. Your opponent can't play king f7 trying to escape because you play knight g5, and actually this is checkmate, just like from FIDE Libre and Italian openings. You can play h6 to stop bishop g5 because you play knight h4 followed by queen g6 or queen f5, and this king is gonna get mated. Queen f5, king e7, knight g6, or queen g6, knight f5, and so on. Anyways, they have to find bishop e7. Only top prepared, cutting edge prepared guys can find all these things, or the guys who are just going to spend a reasonable amount of time. That's why I'm telling you, you can use this opening in faster time controls. Anyways, after bishop to e7, what's happening in this case? So after bishop to e7, you just make a very nice move here. It's a pretty shocking one. You play b4. You can even play knight g5, which requires like further analysis and deeper stuff, but I like b4 move. b4 is a very interesting move. I want to kick this knight away and get a e5 square for the further actions. For example, after b4, if they go with d6, you go rook e1, king f7, queen d5, knight g5, and you have a nice attacking chances. If king f7, b5, kick the knight away. If you kick the knight away, you just play like queen d5 and you almost have like unstoppable mating attack. In case they go d5, you give check, take on c6, and play bishop a3. When they try to solidify and consolidate themselves, like playing rook e8, king g8, and so on, in the meantime, we just also create some sort of like interesting counter chances, but this looks fine for them. And finally, they can play d5 check, b5 threatening knight e5. They have to find queen d6. You take here. They gotta go into this position, and after the dust has settled, they're up a pawn and they have a bishop pair. Let's be honest. If you face this over the board, you might have some problems. Just because of this, after king f6, my suggestion and vote goes to rook e1. They can't move the knight, of course, because bishop g5 should happen. But rook e1 is a nice move that does not allow this king to immediately go on f7, since the queen still stands in the center, and force them to commit themselves with the knight on e7. When we take on e4, they're now trying to hide here, which gets even better chances for them, because we do not have any more queen d5, and any queen c4 could be faced with d5. So you play bishop g5. And after bishop g5, I want to show you two kinds of things. After bishop g5, engines say you have to play d5. That's the best engine move. This guy played c takes b2 against me. I played rook a b1, came up with d5, and here I played queen h4. I believe that the top engine move is queen e5, but a little bit more about this move maybe in some of the next and future videos when I analyze it a little bit more. I played queen h4 because I felt that he's got problems to complete his development, but he played a very nice move, knight g6. I captured and did recapture by bishop. At the moment, they can't play bishop a3 to defend this pawn because I have rook e8, which wins on the spot. The guy played very suspicious bishop d7. I took and he played bishop c6, so after bishop g3, I even had a better chances. But that's not a point. The point is that objectively speaking, this one of the best lines for black only looks slightly better for black. What's the compensation that we have? First of all their pieces are on the back rank, and inability to complete and play actively that fast. On the other hand, if they play h6, you just take, play knight e5, give check, and here you can keep perpetual and make a draw, but you can also play on a win and play knight f7. h6 is a very common move. I expect to be done by most of your opponents. By the way, they cannot capture by queen because you just win that queen d5 or queen c4 or whatever. And finally, if bishop e7, knight e5, king g8, queen here, knight f7. Queen f8, check, you take this knight. Bishop is hanging. When they take here, you play knight g6, which is a shocking part of the analysis. They gotta move the queen, we take it, and we go into this endgame. After all this mess, we end up being up a pawn, and we even have up a passed pawn on the wing A file, supported by rook on a1. An ideal, I would say, development of the events here. And finally, they can play d5. You just go queen f4. You just go with queen h4 or queen e5. I told you that the engines analyzed this and they claim that this position is better for black. It should be, of course, because if nothing else, they're up 3 pawns. But do we have a compensation? Yes, we do. Do we have something to hope for here? Definitely. So it's worth of trying. But just like I told you, I played a game with a queen h4 at this point. And finally, what happens if they just play the move that happened to me already 4 times? Most of the guys come unprepared to these blitz sessions. They just want to try out some fun games, but they never heard or they don't know anything about this gambit, and then they just go with king e8. Believe it or not, this king e8 almost, even though it looks like the most logical, like hiding the queen in some sort of safety, it almost leads to immeasurable complications, and in many lines almost lost position for them. So we play once again rook to e1. Once again, you want to choose whether you want to take by queen or rook. In 99% of these cases, you want to take by rook, because it actually means that you're going to include one more piece into the action. After rook e1, they have literally 5 different moves. The worst one is c takes b2. It happened to me once. I played in a game against an IM who tried to just escape with this. Rook e4, bishop e7, bishop e2. I captured g7, took on f8, played rook f4, and after knight g5, he simply couldn't defend everything in this position and resigned the game. It was another game, 15 moves. Apart from c takes b2, I believe very suspicious move that is common in practice is d6, rook e4. They can't cover themselves with knight e7 because of knight g5, and they just have problems with these two squares, and king cannot find successful in escaping route. And finally, they have to go bishop e7. You go bishop g5. Here, I played most of those games. This is easy to get in your practice. I mean, this position, and it's certainly a very difficult one for defending with the black. They take on b2 mostly. They can also play king f8. If they take and you go rook a to e1, they can play rook f8. In that case, you take, play queen h5, knight d4, and I'm gonna show you a very nice and very beautiful mating attack by some older Sokolov guy from Soviet Union. The game was played in 1965, so it's not Ivan, it's not Andrei, none of these guys, but it's an older guy from Russia, but he still made a beautiful game. Take a look at this one. c5, came up with check, took on e7, and when he came here, played queen g5. When the guy played h6, played a nice rook takes b7 line. What a nice tactical trick. So after knight c6, this is how he mated his opponent. Black is up a rook. He's about to promote the queen, and still he got mated. After c takes b2, rook a to e1, I found one correspondence game where the black played b1 queen. The game was played back to 1997 when black players couldn't deal even against this gambit in correspondence chess. So what does it tell you? That if humans play, if human played a game in correspondence chess and he still couldn't defend it, then what can they hope for, unless they took the engine's strongest stuff and they just learned these refutations. Otherwise, if you catch them off guard, you can just hope for the best. Rook b1, rook here, and bishop f5. Here the guy just took on e7, but he was supposed to bring it back to e3. He took on e7, went into this endgame, and won the game afterwards. And finally, after bishop g5, king f8, you have this rook a to e1 move. They can't play bishop g5, knight g5, you threaten mate. And if they go with queen f6, you have this mate rook e8. Reminds me of one of Italian tricks. So after bishop f6, white played that very nice move b4, threatening and hoping for b5 afterwards. After bishop d7, b5, rook f4, took on f6, played knight g5, similar what I had in my game, threatened mate, and when he played bishop e8, resigned into moves after knight e6. Another nice game that happened in Slovakia back to 2005. And after all these moves, after we've seen c takes b2, which is bad, d6, which is very logical, queen f6 also was one of the black attempts here. He threatened c takes b2. And after queen e4 check, bishop e7. Knight e7 doesn't seem to be working because of bishop g5, and then you just triple up your pieces once again. And they can hardly hold the pressure with the exposed king in the center and all this pressure on the e7 square. After bishop e7, you go bishop g5, queen f7, b4. Before I continue, I'd once again like to remind you of one fact. All these analyses are a product of my pretty good experience lately against good players, titled players, which is very important to know. So I'm just showing you how good players respond, or how they don't know to respond against this gambit. But I don't want to claim that all the analyses are just perfect. There are like lots of room for improvements on both sides, because this is a fairly new stuff, and I was using some engines to like come up with some better ideas, to come up with some new things and novelties, but still there's a room, especially with white pieces, to find some interesting sacrifices in some positions. After b4, we already know we want to move this knight and to weaken the e7, d5, queen h4, b5. This guy played rook f8, now threatens to take on g5, b takes c6, c takes b7, went with the queen before, threatening both of these bishops, and after this, queen c5. For example, take a look at this one. Who would say that you're clearly down a piece? They even have that famous bishop here in an open game, and it cannot help them. White is practically much better here. You threaten queen c6. You can take this, and this pawn. e7 is always under the attack. King is unhappily placed in the center and stands here. They don't have any kinds of tricks. And on the top of all that, they cannot even play and go after the f2 weakness at any point. I really like this one. Apart from this queen f6, they can also go with knight e7. Knight e7 is what happened in two of my games. 2 times, one against GM 2600 FIDE, and another time against an IM. I both times took by rook, and I like to have, now I'm having like 3 pieces, and with the bishop g5, I'm going to have 4 pieces into the action. That's what I like about this gambit. All your pieces just slide easily and go and join easily into the attack. So after c6, I came up with this check. It's very important to give this check to provoke them with g6. Then queen e5, threatening the rook, and then bishop g5. And now, against that German IM, he played d6, I played queen f6. He played d5, I had knight e5, and he can immediately resign, because after bishop h6, rook g7, bishop h6, it's completely winning. But I played rook e7, and when he played bishop e7, I played rook e1, and he resigned in that game. This was the first game against him, and 2600 GM came up with something else. He played d5, I brought my rook back to e2. He played bishop f5, I brought my rook to, actually I put a last piece into the action. He played bishop e4. When you analyze on the engines this line with knight e7, engines will say that this is the forcing line, and it's absolutely the best for black. I would always choose white pieces, even though we're clearly down a piece, because as soon as we do knight d2 and f3, removing this bishop from e4, e7 knight and king on e8 become very weak pieces. In case they go with bishop g7, I found queen b4 during the game, where I pressure e7 knight, pawn b7, and I just want to go with knight e2 followed by f3. If they go queen d6, what my opponent did, I played knight e2, bishop g7, and I felt that this could go into absolutely wrong way if I don't find the most correct moves. I played queen h3, which is nice, because it stops long castle. It threatens the pawn on h3, and I'm still threatening to take on e4 or even play f3. The guy played king f7, I played f3, sacrificed the piece, and after this I played king h1, and he resigned. After rook e8, just take a look at this one and imagine how winning this position is. 23 moves against 2600 GM. Finally, if they go with h6, what is the engine top move, instead of like queen d6 or bishop g7, you go bishop f6. No more even bishop g7. No more even rook g7 as defensive ideas. You still threaten knight d2 or knight d4 followed by f3. And after g5, you just go with the knight d4. You threaten knight e6. You threaten f3. You have like a whole bunch of other moves and threats, and I believe that here white has a great compensation. Finally, we're reaching the moment where they play bishop e7. Most of guys go for that. You just take on e4, and they go with d6. I found a game where the Grandmaster Aravind from India played against Volkov, but not a GM Volkov, another guy, rated around FM level. They played on Title Tuesday, and Aravind, who's 2650 GM, lost with black pieces. He played rook f8, bishop g5, rook f7. This guy captured. He probably forgot that if he captures by rook, this is mate. He probably forgot about this one. After knight e7, knight g5, rook a8 to e1, queen e5, queen e7, and he got mated like this. What a beautiful game. Yes, it was played in Title Tuesday. It was a blitz game, but it was a nice one, and I had to show it to you. After rook e4, d6, we're just once again getting the similar position that we already analyzed. Previously, I forgot to show you that after they play rook f8, what happened to me against that German guy, I played rook a8 to e1, bishop e7, and played knight g5, and he resigned once again in just 14 moves. They have to go with c takes b2. You play rook a8 to e1, rook f8. We already discussed this, and I told you that going into this type of game is enough. You're down a piece, but you all the time maintain a strong initiative. As long as they defend the pawn on b7, we cannot hope for anything. Rook f6 to stop queen g7, queen b3 to provoke weakening of the dark squares, and now just queen a3 with knight e5, queen e7, and wait, queen e7 because he threatens very nasty stuff with this queen and the knight, and after bishop f5, queen b7, white seems to be a lot better. I'm gonna keep you updated with the latest games that I played here. If possible, I'm going to make these games being live so I can show them throughout the blitz in a funny way, but hopefully you're going to have at least as much success as I do with this gambit, and you're going to enjoy this video so much. Thank you so much. Subscribe and keep following the channel. Bye bye, guys.